you the very latest from across the nation and around the world. This is your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
I'm Sonali Manikavaduke. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
The storm Neelam located 100 kilometers from Mullaitivu. National policy on human resources and employment unveiled. Parliamentarian Jayashree Ranga says that certain politicians do not possess the qualifications of even a P-1. And Lawyers for Democracy calls on the government to cease attacking the judiciary.
On to the news in detail. The Working Committee of the United National Party today approved the suspension of 5 public representatives from the party for attending the recent Hyde Park rally of the United Bhikkhu Front. The decision was made despite vehement objections from Deputy Leader Sajith Premadasa and MP Ranjith Madhuma Bandara. The party membership of parliamentarians Palita Range Bandara, Palita Thevaraperuma, Ashok Abesinghe and provincial councillors Shira Laktilaka and Maitri Gunaratna were suspended through a letter signed by party leader Ranil Wickramasinghe. This suspension was put to the working committee of the party today. However, despite objections being raised, the decision to suspend the party membership of these 5 members was approved by the working committee. However, the suspensions are subjected to a disciplinary inquiry that is to be conducted.
Brought to you by Pantene 3-Minute Miracle for less hair fall. Pantene.
The storm that has been developing in the Bay of Bengal is 100 kilometers away from the Mullaitivu coastline. For more on this, let's now cross over to News First Weather Centre, where Aaron Rajratnam is standing by.
Well, we have with us in our News First Weather Centre the Director of the Met Department, Mr. S.R. Jayasekara. Now, Mr. Jayasekara, can you explain to us the forecasted path of this cyclone Neelam and the impact it could have on Sri Lanka in the future?
Yes, it was moving from east towards westward, but we expected it would move over Sri Lankan area, Sri Lankan northern part, but in fact it stopped somewhere here. About 800 kilometers away from Mullaitivu, and then now it's moving a little bit northeastward. Actually, it should be some temporary path, but because it should move either northwest direction, but the moment it's moving in northeasterly direction, northeastward.
Can you tell us why is it so difficult to predict the path of the cyclone? Is it too volatile?
Yes, that is chaotic. It's always the paths are very difficult to be forecast. No, in fact, the weather of the system is easy to forecast. You know, it's not like the other things. If there's an organized system, but this system is not much organized, and then the path may be different. And normally it moves uniform way path, but sometimes it change because of the steering current, because of the wind field.
So right now, immediately, is there any is there a threat to the coastal areas of Sri Lanka at the moment?
Now there was a threat. Now as it is moving, it shows that moving off away from Sri Lanka. So therefore, the threat is now it's going down. But still, the sea areas of north coast and east coast will be rough further because the system is there still. So as it is moving, then it will decrease in next few days. But the wind will feed into the system from southwest. Then southwestern part will experience some showers.
So from when will it be safe for fishing activities to be continued?
Yes, at least 2 days they should refrain from fishing. In fact, because of this, the very strong winds around that, and then the rough seas. But after that, we expect that the system would move away from the area, then it would be okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jayasekara. Back now to the main desk.
It was expected that Mullaitivu would be the worst affected by this storm. News First visited the area last night to witness the situation. What our reporters were able to gather was that many of the people in the area had been affected by the prevailing weather. The authorities were taking measures to provide relief to the people affected by the weather.
ආපදාවකට මුහුණ දීම සඳහා අපේ අමාත්‍යාංශයේත්
Our ministry and all the other departments involved in facing a disaster situation have been told to remain vigilant at all times. We have also instructed them on the steps that need to be taken to evacuate people in case of a disaster. We have taken measures to provide cooked meals to the affected people and are also providing them with dry rations. We will also take the required measures to provide houses to those whose houses were damaged. The relief operations are continuing without any hindrance.
ආබාධිමේ වැඩපිළිවෙල කිසිම බාධාවකින් තොරව මුදල් හිඟයකින් තොරව ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කටයුතු කරනවා.
Well, owing to the storm, which incidentally was named Neelam, rough seas were evident in the northern and eastern coasts of the island today as well. Here are some of the footage recorded by our correspondents in the affected areas.
This is the Jaffna coast this morning. Gale force winds were experienced in Trincomalee today as well, along with the rough seas. This is the Batticaloa coast. Owing to the rough seas in the north and the east of the island, fishermen refrain from going out to sea. The heavy rains in Batticaloa resulted in floods in the area. Our correspondents recorded the following footage of drains being dug to control the flood waters. Our correspondents added that heavy rain and gale force winds were experienced in Ampara as well. Meanwhile, a woman who was plucking tea leaves in an estate in Nagahagedara, Makandura in Matara, died after a tree fell on her.
Well, Trincomalee experienced the highest rainfall in the 24 hours that ended at 8:30 this morning. We also visited the tanks that had dried up in the recent past. Sandy, one of the biggest storms ever to hit the United States, rode ashore with fierce winds and heavy rains near the gambling resort of Atlantic City, New Jersey, after forcing evacuations, shutting down transportation and interrupting the presidential campaign. High winds and floodings wrecked hundreds of miles of Atlantic coastline, while heavy snows were forecast farther inland at high elevations as the center of the storm headed westward. News First Shamir Rasuldin, who is in the heart of storm-ravaged New York, reports about the current situation.
It's a very gloomy Tuesday in New York following the heavy winds and rain experienced in light of Hurricane Sandy. Known as a city that never sleeps, activity in New York has come to a complete standstill. Winds were blowing up to 30 to 35 miles per hour last night between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. New York time, resulting in heavy showers and strong winds. The end result, of course, being a complete blackout here in Manhattan. There is no word as to when power will be restored, and many say if the situation aggravates, power cuts will remain for many days. Manhattan, which is usually bustling with activity, is a ghost town today. Last night, I attempted to go out of my apartment to get a first-hand experience, but the winds were just whipping me up. Schools were closed down for the second straight day today, along with the city's subway system. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Michael Bloomberg, the city's mayor, said that let's prepare ourselves for the worst and hope for the best. His top priority today would be to cope up with the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. Communication is out, only mobile phones could be used at the moment. However, phones too will die down if the power is not restored, completely cutting down the communication. 60 million people have been affected so far owing to Hurricane Sandy. As far as the election is concerned, we're just a week away from the U.S. presidential poll. When questioned by a reporter, President Barack Obama said his top priority at the moment is not the campaign trail, but the security of the people in affected areas in New York. News First, of course, will keep you fully updated with regard to all the developments that will unfold on Hurricane Sandy as well as the campaign trail. I'm Shamil Rasooli, reporting to News First from New York, USA.
The International Space Station captured views of Hurricane Sandy, the monster storm bearing down on the US east coast. About 50 million people from the mid-Atlantic to Canada were in the path of the nearly 1,000-mile-wide storm, which forecasters said could be the largest to hit the mainland in US history. It was expected to topple trees, damage buildings, cause power outages, and trigger heavy flooding. The US National Hurricane Center said the Category 1 storm had strengthened as it turned towards the coast and was moving at 20 miles per hour. The National Hurricane Center said Sandy came ashore as a post-tropical cyclone, meaning it still packed hurricane-force winds but lost the characteristics of a tropical storm. It had sustained winds of 80 miles per hour, well above the threshold for hurricane intensity. The storm's target area includes big population centers such as New York City, Washington, Baltimore, and Philadelphia.
Heavy rain and winds have battered Argentina's capital city, Buenos Aires. Incessant rain throughout yesterday caused floods in many areas, and 2 people have been reported killed, while several have been injured. Thousands have been evacuated. Extensive flooding in the streets brought transportation in some areas of the city to a standstill, and many commuters had to find alternative ways to work with closures on subway lines and city trains. Over 200 millimeters of rain had fallen on the city in the 2-hour period from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. yesterday.
One man was rescued from a building that collapsed during the storm. Businesses were also hit by the powerful winds and rain, and shopkeepers struggled to salvage scattered merchandise. Various traffic accidents were also reported due to the flooding and poor visibility. In some areas, parked cars were piled up one upon the other as a result of the high flood levels. While cleanup efforts in the city are currently underway, some roads remain closed and public transportation has yet to resume full services.
Meanwhile, Typhoon Santing triggered heavy rains, causing extensive damage in South China's Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region and nearby Hainan Province.
The typhoon weakened to a tropical storm in Guangxi, bringing torrential rains in such cities as Nanning, Quinzhou, Fangchenggang, and Beihai. Moreover, continuous rains caused waterlogging in Quinzhou as cars broke down in deep waters, unable to travel through. Meanwhile, the center of the typhoon arrived in Dongxing around 1300 hours yesterday, causing water levels in Beilun River in the city to dramatically rise. At least 8 streets were submerged in water, with more than 120 stores flooded across the city. More than 14,000 fishing boats were called back from sea, and more than 46,000 fishermen in the autonomous region took shelter from the typhoon. In addition, it caused damage to crops stretching 411,000 hectares with a direct economic loss of 910 million yuan.
Typhoon Santing, the 23rd this year, ravaged the port city of Haiphong in northern Vietnam in the early hours, causing massive damage and displacing thousands of people.
A single casualty has so far been reported, as one fisherman was killed as the typhoon hit the low-lying city known for its developed maritime transport. In addition, an 8-hour-long heavy rain and strong gales triggered by the typhoon snapped off trees and damaged restaurants built along the shore of Haiphong, the third largest city in Vietnam. A 10-meter embankment along the seaside was also damaged, a region known for having deep-watered ports. Local residents said the gales triggered high waves of 6 to 7 meters as they all stayed indoors. The typhoon also left 3 others dead, 6 missing and 7 injured in Vietnam.